Well, hey, everybody, this is Heidi St. John. Welcome to the Heidi St. John podcast. Today, I'm going to be interviewing two candidates that are running for positions here in Washington State. Rachel Harter is going to be on the show with me today. She's running for Washington State House District 26, Position 2, and Leslie Lewallen, who is running for Congressional District 3 here in Southwest Washington. Both of these women love the Lord, they love the country, and they've got a great message for you today. We've got a primary coming up. It's really important, and I hope that people around the country are encouraged by what they hear today, because there are good people who love the Lord getting off the bench and onto the battlefield. This is Heidi St. John. Stick around. I think you're going to be encouraged. So several weeks ago, I ran across the Instagram account of a woman I've never met. Her name is Rachel Harter, and she is a mama bear, and she is running for a seat in the Washington State House in District 26. And I was so impressed by what I saw that I reached out to her and I invited her to come on the show. And I'm going to be doing a series of special interviews here just to kind of let you guys hear from candidates and talk to them about why they decided to get off the bench and onto the battlefield. And it's really important, and it's more important now, I think, than it's ever been. I've said before, and I'm going to keep saying it, you cannot win a spiritual battle using a carnal weapon. We've got to start engaging politically as Christians in this country. And I'm so encouraged by these two women. I know you're going to love what they have to say. And it's not just important for those of you who are in Washington State, but for those of you who are around the country, be praying for these races. We are one nation under God. The state houses matter. The federal races matter. And we have an opportunity to engage in prayer. And so I'd love for you to meet Rachel Harter. I think you're going to love hearing from her. So Rachel, welcome to the Heidi St. John podcast. I'm glad you're here.
I am too. Thanks for having me, Heidi. What a privilege.
So I'm excited about your run. And of course, I think I reached out to you on Instagram, just sort of seeing what you are doing up there in Pierce County. So this is your first time on my show, and everybody who listens to this knows I think Christians need to be in politics. I love that you have taken this step and jumped into this race. Tell us a little bit about who you are, kind of where you came from, and why you decided to jump into politics.
Yeah, I think that's such a great message that Christians need to be obedient and run to be the light in the darkness, right? Because that's why we are where we are. And I am a pretty simple gal. I'm the product of the American dream. I'm the fifth generation farm girl, dirt farmer's daughter.
Love it.
Yeah, I was given the spirit of Deborah, and I think it really stemmed from my ancestors. So five generations back, my ancestors made it through the Oregon Trail and homesteaded in the great state of Montana. And I really believe that my grit factor and my ability to, push into politics stems upon the shoulders of everyone that went before me in true American fashion, right? It's the American dream to want more for the next generation. And I think that's why I'm sitting in this seat today, is because I want more for not just my children, but for all of God's children. And I think I have the fight and the grit to do just that.
Well, you got to have grit to get into politics right now, and it's a rough and tumble business, especially in the primary season. Republican primaries are brutal, and they're brutal across the nation. You have to be pretty motivated to jump into a race. You're running for a state seat in Washington's House of Representatives. What's going on in there that would make you, because are you running against an incumbent? Yeah, you're running against another Republican. Yeah. What's going on that would make you want to disrupt the regular?
Absolutely. Going against the incumbent is not the path, that most choose. It's the path of most resistance. And for anyone that knows me, they know that grit should be my middle name because you need that, to go against an incumbent, a seated incumbent of over 10 years. But when she made the choice to betray parental rights this last legislative cycle and step out of caucus, one of two Republicans to leave caucus and vote in Washington's, far left legislation in the form of House Bill 1469, that really impacts all states, if you think about it, Heidi, because now in our state, children have the ability to come across state lines into Washington State and receive abortions or gender, what I call gender mutilation, without parental consent. And this was the final straw where I said, I have what it takes as a mama bear and the fight in me to say no more. We don't have time. We have to lead with urgency to protect our children at all costs.
When you kind of survey the political landscape, I mean, everybody's watching the headlines right now, right? The presidential race is sucking all the oxygen out of the room because we got chaos in the Democrat Party right now, and I think it's taking a little bit of the focus away from these state seats, but they're really, really important. Why should people care about what's happening in their state seat? Because this election cycle is not just about Donald Trump and whoever ends up running against it, which who knows? It's, at this point, it could be Mickey Mouse. Who knows? But these state seats are actually really important. Why should people care and not let the noise of a federal election drown out what's happening locally in our state houses?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have to care. I think, one thing that 2020 really helped to educate us on is how we need to all be involved. Our government is meant for us to be involved. And really, before we saw that, overstep of authority in 2020, we kind of had been complacent, right?
Yeah.
Many of us had been, we're riding on, this idea of freedom. Meanwhile, legislative on the state and federal level kept taking more and more away. And if we continue to sit back and not get involved on even, the city level, the county level, the state level, we're just going to continue to see the erosion of our freedoms at every level. And so I think every level matters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it absolutely does. And when you talk about education, I mean, when you and I talked on the phone earlier, that, of course, I mean, that rings every bell that I have because we need to care about our children. Our children are everything. And we have for a long, long time now, the federal government and our local governments and our state jurisdictions have come to believe that it is the responsibility of the state to parent children, and they're pushing parents out of the equation. How can we fight this from the state level? Someone called in the other day and said, you can't do anything about it at the state level. I disagree. What can be done from the position of a Washington state or any state senator or congressman for that reason? For that matter, what can be done at the state level to help keep the school in its place and the government in its place and keep parental rights intact?
Yeah, we're in an interesting time, right? Because there's a lot of people that you now need two incomes. So you need mom and dad to both go to work to fight with inflation and taxes. And so with not having a lot of school choice, you're basically, the public school system becomes the default. And it's really saddening, and it really makes my heart bleed for these children that don't have the choice to be homeschooled or maybe have a private Christian school or to have school choice in a time when we need to fight for their souls and we need to fight for their hearts as well. And so, one thing that's working well, it looks like Arizona is pioneering this at a state level, is the ESA, the Education Savings Account, and basically taking some of those state funds that are going to, this in our state, $19,500 per school, per child that enters the public school system, and allowing some of that money back into the parents' pocketbook so that they can make a choice, and then eventually creating, more of a competition in schools. Imagine that. In my district, a lot of my middle schools have come out with being 50% to grade level in the public school.
It's amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Our kids, we can't read. We're terrible at writing. We are failing in math. It's amazing. And yet here we go. We're just going to give more. When you say, I mean, I this number, it's over $19,000 per student. It makes my skin crawl because it's wrong what's happening. And I love the idea of school choice. I ran for it in Congress. I love the idea of school choice when it comes to the public schools for sure. Like if I discover, oh, hey, the Battleground School District is failing my kids, I want that money to be transferred to Ridgefield and let's try it over there. And maybe the fact that Battleground lost that money will motivate them to do better. I'm leery. I mean, I'd like to see our state representatives push back on the rising taxes that Washington State is killing its citizens with taxes. We are being literally taxed to death in Washington State. And I'd like to see the state maybe give us more, just how about we just roll the taxes back? I'm more concerned about that than I am about you giving me some of my money back. How about you just don't take it in the first place?
Amen. Yep, exactly. And I think that that's a huge issue, especially in Olympia and probably in other states as well, where the more you spend, the more you make, the more they take. And
boy, it's true. It's true.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And just to that point, I was at the speaking engagement where this woman in her 70s, maybe early 80s, came to me, and she waited to talk to me. She waited to talk to me, and then she handed me an envelope, a contribution envelope, and she really, really pressed it into my hands as she shook my hands. And, she just was so grateful for everything that I stood for in terms of, the basics of being pro-God, pro-country, pro-family. But in some way, what I said gave her hope. And when I got to my car, Heidi, I wanted to open up that contribution envelope, right? Because I was secretly hoping for a limit contribution. And when I opened that, I got Holy Spirit tears. Like I right away started to cry because what this woman gave me was a $5 check. And I think that just speaks volumes to the hard choices that people within my district, people in America are facing right now. They're facing whether or not to put food on the table. She gave me her milk money for the week. And I just think that speaks to this overtaxation is really hurting the people at the bottom end the most. And we need to fight back against all of that overtaxation.
Yeah, you went out of your way on your website to talk about how you believe in economic prosperity through a free market environment. And we're watching the government make that harder and harder. Why should people care about how we see economics in this country?
That's right. Entrepreneurship is the bedrock of our country, right? We have to support small business. And more, it's getting harder and harder to go into these American dreams and pursue those because of the overtaxation, the overregulation, and all the red tape legislation that gets in the way. Why can't we be pro-freedom, pro the American dream, and let government get out?
Yeah, and a lot of it is just this sort of I guess government's become really oppressive. I'm an entrepreneur. I own my own business. My husband and I have started a nonprofit organization. Just this last couple of months ago, we got notification from our, illustrious property tax bill that they're taxing us at $126,000 for the property here. And I'm telling you what, we're a nonprofit organization. I went down there. And I was like, how do you guys sleep at night? We're charging these kids, $5 an hour to be here. I didn't write your $126,000 property tax bill into my business plan. And they said, hey, we have got a mandate from the governor of Washington State that we're to tax every parcel to 100%. And we can actually stem the bleeding at the state level. And if people are tired of being taxed to death, and we really are, I'm actually getting pretty mad about it, Rachel. I got to be honest. They tax you when you go to the store and you buy the stuff, and then they tax you when you sell the stuff. They tax you when you buy your house and when you sell your house. The excise tax in Washington State is horrific. Are you planning on working with and building, I hope you are, a coalition of other like-minded people who want to see the American people have more of their own money so that we can invest it back into our families and into local area businesses?
Absolutely. I think we have to, especially in Washington State where we are, Heidi. I don't know about you, but I'm exhausted and tired of family members and friends leaving the state because of the politics and largely because of the taxation because they can't afford it. And then let's think about the elderly. Let's think about they're on fixed incomes and they're being overtaxed and now potentially a natural gas tax. Like we are debilitating, the families that want to stay here and the elderly that want to stay here because they have to run to other states where that taxation might be less. So for me, absolutely. And I think I will be really loud and proud on budgeting. Like I said at the beginning, I'm a dirt farmer's daughter. And in the farming community, you get paid once a year. And that, doesn't budget you through just the next year. You don't know if hail is coming. You don't know if drought is coming. You really learn how to budget at a really young age. And I think that that's something that we need to get serious about. In our legislative cycle, they do the budget at the end of the session, not at the beginning. And I can't imagine running my household like that. Pretty, it's obvious to say you put the budget first, what you have, and then you do your needs after that. So just some of the semantics of how we run things need to change.
Well, they just don't care because the Democrats are all about tax and spend, right? They can't come up with the money that they need. So they raise their budget and they put it on the backs of hardworking men and women like you and me. I want to talk about really quickly, I want to talk about property tax. I got to be in my bonnet about property taxes. It is crazy to me. I'm watching my mother-in-law, who's 80 years old, owns her own house. She paid for it outright. She will never actually own that house in Washington State, because they're going to make sure she has to pay, $1,200 a month just to keep it in taxes. That is wrong. It is wrong. There should be, at some point, haven't we paid the state enough to live on their property? And I'm curious, we shouldn't have to worry about putting a roof over my mother-in-law's head as she gets older. She has already paid her dues. And I'm watching this younger generation. I've got kids in their 30s. They don't know how they're going to buy a house.
That's right.
We have it's crazy. What can be done to turn that around so that the dream of owning a home is accessible to ordinary Americans again?
Yeah, we're going to have to cut inflation in every way possible. We're going to have to cut taxes in every way possible. And you're going to need strong people that believe that aren't just going to, free spend to all these social measures where we have no regulations in place to even see if they work. How many millions of dollars have we spent on locally or on the state level for the salmon industry? Millions of dollars of hard, blue collar worker families' money that we're putting towards something that isn't even working. Like, we have to get smart at where we put our money so that we can drive those prices down, because you're absolutely right. Kids can't get homes, and the elderly are being priced out of their homes.
Yeah, it's really amazing. We bought our first house, my husband and I did, in the early 90s for $89,000. That's how much we paid for our house. And now you can go back and say, well, okay, that doesn't sound like a lot, but we also made $20,000 a year. So it's still, it was a lot of money, but my point is it was within reach. You're looking at starter homes. I was looking at a house in Camas the other day, Camas, Washington, little, 600 square foot house, 1 bedroom, 1 bath, going for $300,000. That is insane. It's insane, Rachel. And yet we just see the prices going up and up and up and up. I was looking at your website and you say there's no reason, and I agree with you, that Washington State needs to spend $1.3 billion. Did you say per week? Mm-hmm. Oh my word, to maintain our state operations. What in the world is going on?
It's out of control. And back to property taxes too, Heidi, one thing that came to mind is how much of that is going to our school system, right? Our school system that is failing our kids. I mean, that's the other part about having to be in the bonnet, is we got to be adamant about where this tax money is going and is it being used well, and the majority of us would argue that it's not. And, there's no incentivizing for, being under budget within our state legislators. So why are we not incentivizing good behavior to really, spend our hard-earned tax money wisely?
Yeah, it's true. And it's so frustrating. I'm curious to know, there's so many things. Crime, hello, massive. It's a massive problem now. And I think we should come up with a new hashtag. I was telling my kids the other day, I'm like, I think the hashtag should be #Thank a Democrat, right? You like the high taxes? Thank a Democrat. You like high crime in your area? Thank a Democrat. You're happy that fentanyl is pouring across our southern border and into our cities and states? Thank a Democrat. You like that we've got Kamala Harris running for president and Joe Biden can't come out of his basement? Thank a Democrat. These people who say that they love the republic, which it's a republic, stop calling it a democracy. Thank a Democrat. How can we turn this thing around? Particularly, you're talking to people now who are listening to this who have watched the Democrats systematically ruin the American dream, largely over social issues. Let's be honest. It's largely for DEI. It's largely for LGBTQIA, the alphabet mafia, and all the rights that they want that they claim they don't have, which also is a lie from the pit of hell. It is for many of these scenarios that are worst case scenarios for the American people, and they are affecting ordinary Americans. In a blue state like Washington State, talk to the people who are living in blue states right now who just go, you know what? My vote doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. I try to vote and I just lose. Try to vote for governor and we just get Dingus Inslee who's in there. I try to vote. I try to get a better representative and I just get a Democrat again. I think Republicans are worn out and they're staying home and they feel like it's just voter fraud anyway, so why should I vote? What do you say? I mean, Rachel, how can you encourage people that it's not over and that they still have an opportunity to turn the ship around?
That's right. And I think too often people think, well, what can I do? What do I have to offer? And not everyone is going to be in my seat running for an office, right? That's not everyone's gift. But what everyone can do is get good at having conversations with everyone they interact with throughout the day, right? Our ground game is so important. How can you have genuinely caring conversations with people at the grocery store just to get curious and plant the seed that, we need to really think about who we are voting in, and every race is going to matter, but we have to start having these conversations when we're out and about, because that is where the true game is going to be.
Yeah, that's right. And everyone can participate. Everyone can do that. I have said for a long time, and I think this is why I was so fascinated with you when I sort of came across what you were doing on Instagram. This is a spiritual battle. It is spiritual from sunup to sundown, and we cannot win spiritual battles using worldly weapons. And we keep trying to do the same thing over and over again. And we're not going to get a different result until we really invite the Lord into it, which means that the Lord's people need to again begin to engage politically. It absolutely matters. Where can people find you online? Because I'm hoping that my listeners, there's a lot of people listening to this, and you guys, come on, you can pitch in. It takes a lot of money to run for office, and you're doing the hard work. The least we can do is get in there and support you financially. Where can people find you online?
You bet. It's Rachel for wa.com, and I would be honored for any contributions, because you're right, Heidi. You got to pay to play. As much as we don't like it, and every dollar counts. Even if it's $5, it counts, because statistically, many people don't know this, but all it takes is 300 individual contributions, and statistically, you usually beat your opponent.
So you're getting there.
I'm getting
Girl,
there.
You're getting there. Well, I'm praying for you. Thank you for coming on the show today and for just reminding us that our government is for the people. It is of the people, for the people. It takes ordinary people to run for these seats. I'm so glad you're doing it. Keep me posted, and I'll be praying for your race as it's getting close now, girl. What are you coming up to, like?
That's right,
August 6th?
We're right around the corner, the final push. So I really appreciate this, Heidi. It means more than you know.
You're very welcome. All right, you guys, I hope that you want more information on Rachel. I am encouraged because we've got an opportunity right now to send God-fearing people into positions of authority. It's something I've been praying for a very long time. And I'm praying that more of us come out in the primaries than have ever come out. We have an abysmal record around the country and here in Washington State for sure of voting in the primary. Primaries matter. Politics matters. Politics determines policy, and policy shapes the nation. So let's start sending people who will represent the Lord Jesus at the highest positions of government. I'm sure by now all of you know that I ran for Congress in Washington State in 2022. One of the most amazing things that I have ever done was to meet the people of Southwest Washington and to spend 2 years of my life campaigning in Congressional District 3. It was one of the most difficult things I have ever done, and also one of the most rewarding. It opened my eyes to the spiritual battle and the nature of the rank nature, really, of politics in the United States, particularly here in Southwest Washington where I live. And while I didn't win that race, I believe that we won when we obeyed. My family and I came out on the other end of that stronger. Our faith is stronger. Our love for this country is stronger. And while I'm not running this cycle, I met a woman several months ago who is running for Washington State's 3rd Congressional District. Her name is Luallen. She is a former King County prosecutor and a sitting councilwoman in the city of Camas. And I love this woman. She's become a friend of mine. I think she would make an excellent representative for Washington State. But more importantly, I want you to hear what she has to say, because it's very crucial right now that we know where these people are coming from. We understand their background and their motivations for running to represent us, and we pray for these races. And so I hope you enjoy this interview with my friend and candidate for Washington State's 3rd Congressional District, Luallen. So Leslie, it's great to have you back on the show. You haven't been here for a while. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, Heidi. It's great to be here again.
So I'm going to jump right into this because I am passionate, obviously, that Christians get into politics, believing that you can't keep sending people to the front lines of spiritual battles that can't wield spiritual weapons. We've been doing this for generations in this country. It's not working. Look at what's happening in Washington, D.C. right now. The Democrat Party is in absolute chaos and disarray. We are in a moment when conservatives could actually take the helm again and turn this country around. You are running for the same seat I ran for 2 years ago, Washington State's 3rd Congressional District. And like me, you really never planned on getting into politics. What brought you to the front lines of the spiritual battle in Washington State?
Well, if there was one good thing that came out of COVID, it woke me up to the atrocities happening to the people, the values in the country that I love. And frankly, I just had enough. I was watching my 4 children fall apart in front of my face. I got really upset and I decided to do something about it. And that's when I ran for city council and I knocked on 5,000 doors. I didn't have a walk list. I didn't have a team of anybody, but I went out and I talked to everybody. And I got elected, and then I got a front row seat at more of the issues that were harming regular families and folks. I sit on the city school subcommittee, and the discussions that don't take place that should be taking place aren't happening. We don't talk about the learning loss that our kids here in Washington State suffered for over 18 months. We don't talk about putting parents back in the driver's seat with respect to their children's education. This discussions always seem to center around money. When can we tax people more and more and more? And so that frustrated me. And like I said, I got a front row seat at more of the problems facing Southwest Washington. And when I saw that we lost the 3rd congressional seat in the last election cycle, I was galvanized to do even more. This isn't even about flipping this seat back. That's a safe Republican district. Trump won the district by 4 points in 2020, and Tiffany Smiley won the district by 8 points in 2022. This district and this race alone could determine whether or not Republicans keep and hopefully grow the majority in the House of Representatives. And I don't know about you, but I'm tired of the performative politics. I'm tired of the angertainment. And it does happen on both sides of the aisle. And I'm just as somebody said, a ticked off mom that got off the sidelines. I want to get out there. I want to roll my sleeves up. I want to get to work, get back on the plane, fly home to my 4 beautiful children and my husband, and be in my district. And that's what I see right now. I see it on both sides of the aisle that we are not electing good governing types of individuals.
There's a lot of showboating going on. I mean, it's one of the things I think that has frustrated me as I've watched sort of some of the quote unquote rising stars of the Republican Party. And these guys spend more time on television and trying to make it into the news cycle than they do working for the good of the people that sent them there in the first place. And I think Americans, by and large, are really tired of that. I mean, we don't have a lot of time to lose. What do you think, Leslie, about where we are right now in light of what is happening with the presidential campaign and now Kamala Harris looking to be, coronated to take over for Dementia Joe?
Yeah, this is just terrible. First of all, as a former prosecuting attorney myself, I find it hilarious that this woman who has been soft on crime hasn't prosecuted anybody. And the border czar has left the border wide open for over 11 illegal immigrants to cross the southern border every single day. We've got drugs, crime, human trafficking coming straight up the I-5 corridor and taking root in our community here. And I see it every day. I have parents who come to me with tears in their eyes because their child has died from an accidental overdose of fentanyl. And then you have someone like Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez who flippantly says on video that nobody stays awake at night worrying about the southern border.
Unbelievable.
I hope that she is able to look some of these parents in the eye and tell them that nobody stays awake at night worrying about the southern border. But going back to something that you said earlier about the showboating and whatnot. So it's interesting. I think that it's a way for some of these folks to fundraise, that they get the small dollar amount from their angertainment and their performative politics. And it's hard. I mean, campaigns do cost a lot of money. Even Majority Whip Tom Emmer said there's 3 things that you need in order to win an election. You need to be the right candidate with the right message and the right money. And right now in this specific race, we have Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez, who's the wrong candidate with the wrong message. But unfortunately, Democrats are dumping a lot of money into her.
Sure they are. Yeah.
Yep. And then you have Joe Kent, who lost before, and he's going to lose again by an even wider margin. Nobody likes the guy. he is the wrong candidate with the wrong message, and he doesn't really even have that much money. He's just been professionally campaigning for 4 years for a 2-year position.
Yeah.
I know that I'm the right candidate with the right message. And right now, I've been doing really well financially, but I am making a plea for people, if they want to elect a good governing member of Congress, if they want to help preserve and grow the majority in the House of Representatives, I really do hope people take a look at donating to my campaign, because I'm not going to be doing those performative antics. I'm not going to be just trying to stir up trouble just so I can tweet about it and earn a quick dollar.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sick of this stuff, and I think the work of the American people of governing the nation is serious work, and it requires serious people who are less concerned with getting into the news cycle and more concerned with closing our southern border and rolling back the size and the scope of government. When you see what's happening with the government, I mean, we could talk about COVID, of course, all day long, but it seems to me that many of the people in our government, and this is true in the state houses, it's true of the governors, we saw this in COVID, we have forgotten the role of government. The role of government is not to provide health care for us. The role of government is to secure the borders, to provide for the national defense, to make sure that we can have interstate commerce happening. And instead, they've got their hands into every little nook and cranny of our lives. What do you say to young people, especially, who have grown up in our public school systems, who think that government is the answer to all of our problems?
That's interesting. So when I'm at the City of Camas Council, and it's the same questions that I'll ask myself when I go to Congress. First question I always ask myself is this a problem for the government to solve?
There's a good question.
More often than not, it's not our problem to solve. And then the second question is, what are the unintended consequences? Because government oftentimes likes to solve problems, and then they wind up creating a variety of other problems as a result of it.
Yeah.
And then finally, I always ask myself, how is this going to actually serve the people that I represent? Is this vote, is this piece of legislation actually going to help the people that I have been elected to serve? And I don't think that a lot of people have that tool belt, or even that outline in which to make decisions from. But I think that if we asked, and this is what I've said to other people, I was like, why don't you ask the candidate how they make decisions? Not necessarily just what their view is on everything. How do they make these decisions? Because that really does lend itself to the role of government. And you're correct, the role of government has grown way out of control. I wrote a law review article on it 20 years ago about the fourth branch of government, shadow governments, and how they're comprised of unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats that are making policy decisions that they have no business making.
Yeah, Fauci comes to mind.
Yeah. So thankfully, though, we have a great U.S. Supreme Court right now who's been handing down a ton of really good decisions, and overruling the Chevron case, I think, is going to really start whacking away at that fourth branch of government that has just grown way out of control.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was talking about the Chevron case last week here at the show. Fascinating why it is so important that it matters. It should matter. Like who is sitting in the White House, because that guy's going to have a shot probably at appointing another Supreme Court justice. And praise the Lord, if it wasn't for decent, law-abiding, Constitution-loving Supreme Court justices right now, our country would be on its head. Tell us a little bit about, because a lot of people kind of confused about the Chevron decision. Tell us a little bit about that and why you think it's so important that people understand why that decision was made and how it affects ordinary Americans.
So the Chevron rule basically gave agencies discretion. If there was any ambiguity in the statute or the law, the U.S. Supreme Court under the Chevron rule said, well, then we'll leave that decision to the agencies. We give them a wide breadth of discretion instead of sending it back to Congress. And the reason why that's significant is because Congress, you can vote out your representative. They have to be transparent and accountable to the electorate, and these agencies don't have to be. And so some of these agency rulings, especially when you look at the environmental issues, those carry trouble damages. in a lot of cases. And it's hammered people and really hamstrung their livelihoods, their businesses and whatnot. And again, it's just allowed the government to just become overly bloated. And Justice Brandeis said that years ago with respect to our government. He said, sunlight is the best disinfectant.
Yes. So good.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And we need to know what our agencies are doing. We need to know who's making the decisions. And that even lends itself to the situation that we've watched with Joe Biden. I mean, there was no transparency there.
Right.
I'm not sure who is making the decisions.
Yeah.
The media was complicit in it. People were hiding his condition.
Well, Kamala bears 99.9% of the responsibility for hiding Joe's condition. She absolutely knew it. So now she's going to run for president. And the very thing that she says she didn't do, which is, she's been his right-hand man, she's already lied to the American people. Get off the stage, Kamala. Nobody wants you to run.
She's terrible. I think she's even more guilty because, I'm so sorry, but Joe Biden, I don't even think had the mental capacity to know exactly what was happening to him. She should have known better. Where was she with the botched withdrawal from Afghanistan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where was she?
Yeah.
She was the border czar, and yet 11 million illegal immigrants have crossed our border. Where was she then? Mm-hmm. She's done absolutely nothing. She's running as a prosecutor, and yet she never prosecuted anybody. Mm-hmm. That's what's wrong in America right now. We have soft on crime policies. We have prosecutors who are prosecuting victims instead of the criminals. And this is just wrong. This is another example of how things got so turned upside down during COVID. And that's what galvanized me off the sidelines and said, I cannot allow my children and future grandchildren to live in a country that is like this. And, it makes me angry. I think that it's going to be identity politics with.
Oh, for sure. Well, Kamala's a DEI hire. I mean, let's be honest. We just saw the resignation of the head of the Secret Service, another DEI hire. DEI is bad for the country, and we're going to see it play out in real time. And I'm curious, you had, let's say you win this election, and I hope that you do. Let's say you win this election and you head to Washington, D.C. To represent the people of Washington State. There's a lot of showboating going on. I see this in candidates. I watch it. Someone will say, when I get to Washington, D.C., I'm going to close the border. And I just want to go, no, you're not. No, you're not. People have to be able to work together to close the border. Yes. A single candidate is not going to go to Congress and close the border. A single candidate is not going to go to Congress and lower your taxes. You have to be able to reach across the aisle. You have to be able to work together, and you have a proven track record of being able to do that. It's one of the things I really love about you. Somebody asked me just recently, did I feel weird about supporting another candidate who was running for the seat that I ran for? And I'm no, because I love Washington State and we need good representation. What do you plan on doing, Leslie? What is at the top of mind for you should you win this seat and the trust of the people of Washington State?
Well, I would like to work with my colleagues to shut down the border. I really would. I would like to do that. But I know it's going to take hard work and it's going to take a majority of folks to do that. But I would like to reinstate the Remain in Mexico policy. I would like to overturn the catch and release policies.
Come on.
Yeah, I would like to get tough on crime again. If you're coming across the border and you're selling fentanyl, I want to throw the book at you. When you get elected, I think there's certain committees and that I'm interested in. Another committee that I'm very interested in is energy and commerce. I mean, we have some of these environmental laws coming out of California.
Devastating.
Impacting interstate commerce. And they are ruining small businesses and even larger businesses here, not even just in Washington State, but throughout the nation. I mean, people are using trucks to go as far as Nevada and then unloading all of their goods and reloading them onto different trucks that are carb certified. Guess who pays for that?
Me.
Yeah, we do. We pay for it. So we need common sense people. But again, I'm just going to be one of, many in Congress, but I do work well with people. The city of Camas is a nonpartisan position. And just as when I knocked on all those 5,000 doors and I continue to make calls, people really want you to focus on the issues that matter most to them. And here, even in Washington state, fentanyl and the crisis that we're seeing right now, it's not a red or a blue issue. It's a red, white, and blue issue.
That's right.
It really is.
That's right.
But I do think there is a stark contrast between Republicans who recognize that this is a problem and need to do something about it versus Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez and Kamala Harris, who think, hey, nobody's worrying about this situation.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really true. And we got just a couple minutes left. And then there's something else I want to touch on that has really, one of my takeaways from running for Congress in 2022 was the vitriol, the vicious nature of a Republican primary and the fact that we do not know how to work together. And I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned that we can't, if we can't work together, then we're going to lose. We're going to continue to lose. And in politics, you win through multiplication, not through division. It's one of the things I love about your campaign. I think you've done a really good job of just talking about your record as a former prosecuting attorney up in King County and as a city councilwoman in Camas. Tell me a little bit about why it is so important that we unify together as Republicans and we stop with the infighting, because I think we're hurting ourselves.
We absolutely are. We 100%. I mean, I watched all the arrows slung at you and other great Republican candidates, and it hurt my heart because, we want to lift people up.
Yeah.
We don't, I hope that you run for office again, whatever office, school board or mayor or whatever you want to do. You're an amazing woman and an amazing leader, and I don't see the point of cutting anybody down. Like I said, I have 4 kids, and I'm sure I'm a lot like you. I teach through example. Mm-hmm. I'm going to walk the walk, and I can tell my kids all day long what to do or how to behave, but showing them how to behave is entirely a different bear. It's a different animal. I mean, they're listening, they're watching everything I do, everything I say, how I react to all the situations. And I'll say this, because you ran against him too. Joe Kent does a lot of talking. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's talked for the past 4 years, but he hasn't done anything. While he's been talking, I've been delivering for Southwest Washington. You've been delivering for Southwest Washington. While he's been talking about unifying the party, I've actually been bringing Republicans from every spectrum back to the table. Mm-hmm. I mean, my endorsements are great. You've endorsed me, Liz Pike's endorsed me, Larry Hoff has endorsed me, Rob McKenna and Tiffany Smiley. I mean, we have Republicans from like I said, every spectrum that are supporting this race because they know how important it is. So again, people can talk about unity, but what does that mean? Mm-hmm. If you can't actually bring people together, if you alienate others, and you try to divide and subtract, that's not unification.
No, it's not. And the alienation piece of it's really important. I've said this before, and I hope people will listen. People will govern how they campaign. So we watch how people conduct themselves during their campaigns. I'm very curious. The people closest to the candidate and the people who are sort of representing them and their spirit and their attitude through social media and other places is really important. It matters, and it should matter to the candidates that the people that are around them are treating even those that we disagree with honor and dignity. And I think someone who has the courage to run for office deserves the chance to be heard. And I'm glad to see you getting your message out there to the people of Southwest Washington. A lot of people listening to this right now who've thought about getting into politics, who are just now kind of going, oh man, maybe we should pay attention. This is a race to watch. I think one of the few really important races in the nation. And you need money. It takes a lot of money to get billboards. It takes money to put ads on the radio. I know, I did it. And I hope people support your run for Congress. If they want to reach out and send a donation to you to help you get your message out there, the Republican primary is coming right up. I mean, you're down to the wire now. How can people donate to your campaign?
Yeah, so ballots are already out. We're all mail in here in Washington
Wah,
State. So
wah. We hate
I
that.
know.
We hate it.
But ballots have to be postmarked by August 6th. I'm running a great ad. I want to keep it on air through the primary. People can go to Leslie for Washington. That's LESLIEFOR Washington, all spelled out, .com. They can donate there. The individual maximum contribution is $3,300. If you're a couple, you could donate $6,600. And if you wanted to double max out for both the primary and the general as a couple, that's $13,200. But I am a fiscal conservative. I'm very careful with my finances, and all of those donations will just basically keep me on the air and push me through the finish line at the primary, and then I'll go ahead and defeat that progressive Democrat that has no business being in office right now.
That's right. Leslie Luallen, such an honor to have you here. Thank you for coming on and talking to my people here today, and I wish you the best, and I'll be praying for you. You know I'm in your corner.
I know. Thanks so much, Heidi. You're the best.
If you guys want more information on my guest today, hop on over to HeidiSt.John.com/podcast. I will link back to Leslie Luallen for Congress in the show notes today. Thank you guys so much for listening. I'll see you right back here again at the intersection of faith and culture.